Hey y'all, it's Diana from the Dianaverse. I'm here to do the full moon and Scorpio eclipse forecast. Wow, I feel like just saying full moon in Scorpio, Pluto retrograde, Mercury retrograde. I could just sum it all up right there, right? But we're gonna dive deeper into that. First, if you like these videos, like and subscribe so you get notifications of when they come out. Share them with your astrological buddies if you think that they would enjoy these forecasts. I would love to share this with all the people. And I am doing some events here locally, so I wanted to just kind of throw those out there. I am going to be doing a seaweed walk. That's going to be June 4th. I will put the link down below if you want to check out more details about that. It is on the northwestern end of Washington State, so it's a physical come to the event kind of thing. So if you're in that area and you can attend that, it's going to be really fun looking at the different seaweeds we have here on the coast, and I will also serve you a nice gourmet meal. I've got Moon in Cancer, so I'm all about that food, y'all, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll put that down below. I'm also going to be leading a class or a workshop, more of a workshop, at the Wildcrafters Rendezvous, which is happening at the end of May. You can look for that online under Wildcrafters Rendezvous. I'll try to find the link and post that below too. This is an event put on by Skeeter, Michael Pilarski. If you happen to know him, it should be a lot of fun, a small gathering. So those are some things I've got coming up. I'm planning a natural dye class, which I had thought to do May 21st, and maybe getting a little too close to that to get the ticket link out for that now, because I've been out of town. But we'll keep you all posted on that one and get that up. If you look on my Eventbrite page, it'll pop up there, so just keep an eye on that. And we are on to our eclipses. This is going to be the Scorpio full moon, so it'll be kind of an intense eclipse. This is going to be the last eclipse that we have in the Scorpio Taurus axis. Those are the nodes of the moon where the eclipses happen, and this will be the last one in Scorpio on the south node, which is about things coming up to be released until about a decade. It takes about a decade for the eclipse nodes to make a full circle around the Earth. So until about 2031, we won't have these again. But then when they come up, they will be at almost the same degree. This is going to be at 15 degrees of Scorpio. And the one that's coming up in 2031 will be at 16 degrees. So it'll only be a little like progression on the themes that we're going to see at this time. Things will be kind of popping back up to develop some more. The 15 degrees, if it's in the fixed signs, which Scorpio is a fixed sign, are known as the avatar degrees. So those are exactly in the middle because there's 30 degrees in each sign. So this is right in the middle. So when you get something at 15 degrees right in the middle of a sign, it's like it can see things from both sides now, and it has a lot more agency to be able to accomplish things. So if you have planets in the fixed signs, which is Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo, then this may impact you a little bit more than it might some other people. And these kind of themes around those signs will be more impacted by this particular transit. So the south node is our comfort zone, where we've been. It can be things from the past, especially with that Scorpio flavor. It can be secrets coming up, or being accountable for things from the past, or integrating things, trauma, and those sorts of issues that are coming up for you. You can integrate better at this time. It's a water sign, so even though it's fixed energy, you can move that energy, you can integrate it, you can use it to create something new. Or just release it. If you need to let go of something to move on, this is a great time for that. So this will, of course, especially impact people with strong Scorpio in their chart. And I would recommend looking at your chart. You can get a free astrology chart at astro.com. You go to their horoscopes, click on there, look for horoscope charts, and you can plug in. You need to know your time of birth in order to get the houses brought up that where they were when you were born. But if you have that information, it can really be valuable to see where this eclipse is hitting you in your chart. That makes it a little more personal. Most of the things I'm going to say today are sort of general, like the general flavor of what's going on in the cycles. For what it's doing for you personally, you would want to look at where exactly it's going to hit in your chart. So for a personal example, I have Scorpio in my 8th house in Neptune. The 8th house themes are largely other people's money, power struggles, things out of your control. I find that Neptune placement there, it can be disillusionment with other people and things that I don't feel I have control over. It can also be a great way of channeling intuition. Like I can tune in to other people's thoughts, or that's not always a plus, but it can help me like navigate life, right? Knowing what general trends are and picking up on things that people are doing or saying and how that's going to play out. So for me personally, like what's going on in my life, I just traveled. You may remember I went to Scotland for a couple of weeks and that was super fun. But now that I'm back at the end of the trip, like there are things popping up, problems like rental car company charging me almost $400 extra that I wasn't expecting, and I'm trying to sort that out. It's something I don't feel I necessarily have control over, but I'm trying to take the power of that and negotiate for the price that I agreed to. We'll see how that turns out. Or my luggage is lost. Again, like every time I travel overseas, it seems like they lose my luggage. And I said I wasn't going to check a bag, but it's hard to travel for 2 weeks without a suitcase. So I did, and of course they lost it again. So I'm negotiating with the airlines, trying to get my suitcase back. And it's something that's systems that I don't feel I have control over necessarily, but I am speaking up in a calm, if somewhat complaining way to try to get my things back. I had most of the things that I purchased on the trip in that suitcase. So the theme that I came up with for me over the last couple of weeks building up to this eclipse was dealing with things not from a place of fear, but a place of love. I love the things that I had in my suitcase, and I'm trying to trust that I will get it back. It's just going to take a little time and negotiation, and I'm waiting somewhat impatiently for that. So that's like an example of how that's coming up for me. If we look at a world example, we look at someone like Trump, like love him or hate him, he's got a lot of stuff coming up right now, especially from his past, where it's being brought up in the public eye, brought up in the legal system to look at. Was this thing that he did okay? Was this thing not okay? And I have my personal opinions, but that's not what I'm trying to really present right here. I'm just trying to say, like, you can see how where he has Scorpio placed in his chart, he's bringing up a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of stuff that is being gone over with a fine-tooth comb pretty publicly, and he's having to deal with that. So if you have strong Scorpio in your chart, you can have some stuff really coming up that you're going to have to deal with and sort through and integrate one way or the other. Now, Scorpio has a dual rulership. In ancient astrology, it was ruled by Mars, which happens to be in Cancer right now. So that can be about going within, feeling self-protective. You could look at the Cancer part of your chart to see more information. And the other planet that rules it in modern astrology is Pluto. So you could also look at where Pluto is in your chart and see what that's doing. Right now, Pluto is in Aquarius. It's retrograde though. It's barely in Aquarius. It's going back to Capricorn. Like, oops, I forgot something back in Capricorn that I gotta go get that before I can move forward. So there could be some things from the last few years that are sort of like, oh, I gotta go back over this again, right? because you haven't totally integrated it, or it still feels unsettled, feels like there's some stuff you still got to wrap up, going over with that. The moon, being in Scorpio, is opposing planets in Taurus, because that's on the other side of the astrology wheel from Scorpio. So that's going to be right now Uranus. That can be sudden breakthroughs, that can be sudden breakdowns, things unexpectedly happening in that way. It's opposing the sun. So where Taurus likes to feel comfortable and has its finances in order, or feels good about itself and how it looks, can also be the voice, because Taurus rules the voice. Things that aren't being spoken up, that Scorpio moon is going to say, you got to say this. So it could be giving a voice to things where people haven't felt like they've been safe in saying things, but now it's just, there's pressure to bring that out. It's also opposing the North Node. So the North Node is where we want to head. It's things we're moving towards. It's things we want. The South Node is the things where you got to deal with the past before you can move forward to that future. You've got to wrap everything up, or else you're still going to have these lingering things that are unsettled, and you don't want to drag that around for the next decade until we get a chance to resolve these things again. So whatever comes up, it might not be fun to deal with necessarily, but you want to bring it up and deal with it. Like I really dealt with the fear thing. I was traveling alone. I'm driving differently than I do here in the States, right? We all know Scotland is on the same road rules as England, so you're on a different side of the car, you're on a different side of the street. The roads are very different there. I had a lot of anxiety around that going in, but I've done it before, so I actually felt more comfortable than I thought I would. So I was like, oh, I can do this. I've done this before, and it was okay. So that was a lot of that, like getting over the fear and getting into the love of what I was doing, so that I wasn't just crazy. Like, I have a lot of Virgo, so I get very anxious sometimes about like what's gonna happen, and this helped me deal with it in a lot of ways. So yeah, find your support group if you can, if you're having a lot of anxiety. I noticed at the time when I was super anxious that my tongue, if you look at your tongue in Chinese medicine, if you have a lot of fear, that's in the kidneys, and it's a very cold condition, and I had like a white coating on my tongue, which now that I'm back home, totally went away. So while I was having all that anxiety, and that's a fun thing you can maybe do at home. If you find yourself like turning things over and being super anxious about something, see if your tongue is white coated. Tell me about it in the comments below, because I would love to see if other people experience that. So you want support for like your kidneys. And Scorpio is like the genitals, the urinary system. And if you're feeling a super amount of stress, it can really impact that, like your urinary system and your things with the prostate, or your menstrual cycle, things like that, if you're feeling a lot of anxiety. So this is sort of like a physical thing to be aware of with this moon. The moon is the body to begin with, and then Scorpio is those things that I just talked about. And like I said, with Taurus on the other end, the sun that's reflecting onto that moon can be things in the throat. You could have a scratchy throat, or things that you need to say. And so you want to soothe that throat and keep that all happy and good. Say things that you need to say, hopefully in a positive way. So there's a bit of a axis going on, because there's squares between Mars, which is the ruling planet of Scorpio, and Jupiter, and then you've got Pluto is also squaring the North Node in Jupiter. So there's a lot of dynamic tension going on right now. There's a lot of stress. So the more that you can find ways to maybe work that out of your body. You might do exercise, not like Mars can get a little too driven, and you don't want to injure yourself with things aspecting that Uranus and Taurus. But you want to like support it. Like walking meditation would be a great way to work through this, or doing something fun with your friends, and remembering that things aren't all just stress, but there are good parts in life too. And what else did I want to talk about to you guys? Well, Beltane. I celebrated Beltane on Calton Hill in Edinburgh, and that was super fun. Beltane is often put on May 1st. That's sort of a calendar convenience thing. In reality, it generally happens more like 5th, 6th, depends on the year. It's the literal in-between date between your winter solstice and your summer solstice. So that's not necessarily going to be on May 1st. It's gonna depend on when the solstices were, and it's close to those dates every year. But if you're like a stickler for detail, you might want to look that up and see what some of the pagan people are saying about when they're celebrating Beltane at the moment. So you could still celebrate Beltane this weekend, right? Because today's the 5th, and it's either like today, tomorrow, depending on where in the world you are, what time zone you're in. So you can totally still celebrate this very Taurian holiday of fertility in your life. Getting ready for gardening is one way to express that. Music, celebrations, all of those great things in your life can still be celebrating that. So I encourage you to check that out and do that if you enjoy that. This is when the goddess Bridget is in the Kaliak, celebrating fertility and the continuance of life. So a whole lot of fun, have a sense of humor with that. And the herbs that I am suggesting for this lunation, I am working with cleavers, which are totally popping up most places in the world. I saw them in Scotland, and I've seen them here before I left too. So it's a great one for the lymphatic system, for the kidneys, helps you energetically unstick things. You know how cleavers, they stick to you. That's one of, they're like Velcro, you know, you can put them on your clothes or your hair and they'll stick. They're little seeds. Once they're ripe later in the year, stick to people, and that's how they travel around and germinate somewhere else. So they can help you energetically with attachments, places where you're stuck. And with Scorpio forcing us to kind of move some stuff, cleavers would be a great way. What I like to do with them, I learned this from my friend Natalie Hammerquist, is to put them in the blender with a good cup or two of water, blend them really well, and then strain it out, because they're a little fibery, like you don't necessarily want to eat them. When they're super young, you could. They're still more tender, but by the time they're up pretty well, just before flowering, they're a little stringy and tough. So you strain that, and then you can drink that juice. It's like making a juice with it, and I love that. So I use that all the time now. Well, every year when it's time for that. So I enjoy that. And then the crystal for this lunation that I picked was smoky quartz to go with the Scorpio, so that you can bring up those murky places, those dark places, in a clear way where you have clear sight through it. And if you have a piece of smoky quartz that has inclusions in it, like little cracks and refractions within the crystal, I enjoy scrying a stone like that and just seeing what it reminds me of, what it brings up that can help you process things. Sometimes those murky things that are just under the surface, it's hard to just rationally bring that up. So scrying is a way of looking into the crystal, and it can help you by having shapes and reminding you of things that you can kind of get a little thought trigger of, like, oh yeah, like I remember this thing that happened, or I remember something someone said, or that reminds me of this mountain, and I want to look into that shape because something about that is bringing up something on my journey. I'll just leave it there. You can figure that out. I can't tell you exactly what you're going to experience, right? So those are my 2 recommendations for this month, and I see I'm running a little over time, so I'm going to wrap this up. Please comment below whatever's coming up for you, and check out my events, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Take care.